Yeah.
Good evening, everybody.
Subsidy.
For the record, it's Thursday, October 24th, 2019. It's 5:15 p.m. time for the regular meeting of the Wenatchee City Council. As always, our first item is a pledge to our flag. Councilmember Markhart, would you lead us?
Be like,
The flag's right here by me.
yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Markhart. And for roll call this evening, we have Mike Poyer is gone. Otherwise, we have all six council members, the other six council members here today. Our first item on today's agenda are the consent items, which includes the agenda, vouchers, and minutes from our previous meetings. And for a couple of you in the audience, pay attention to the agenda because we're going to change the housing code. We're not going to hear that tonight. We're going to hear that in a couple of weeks. So if I have a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we approve the consent items. These consist of the agenda for this evening as published, with the exception that item 6G, the housing code, that the public hearing for that be continued to November 7th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter here in the council chambers. This includes the vouchers, minutes from previous meetings, and Resolution 2019-42 declaring certain personal property surplus to the needs of the City of Wenatchee and authorizing the Department of Public Works to dispose of the personal property identified herein, that resolution.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Bailey to approve this evening's agenda, with the following change being that the housing code update, that public hearing will be continued to November 7th at 5:15 p.m. in the City Council chambers. That we approve the vouchers as shown in this evening's packets, the minutes from the previous meetings, and that we adopt Resolution 2019-42 declaring certain personal property surplus to the needs of the City of Wenatchee and authorizing the Department of Public Works to dispose of the personal property identified herein. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Citizen comment. This would be a time when any member of the audience who wish to address the City Council on anything that's on this evening's agenda or not on this evening's agenda. We'd give you 3 minutes or so. Seeing no takers. We have no presentations, so our first action item this evening is an interlocal agreement with our friends in law enforcement regarding our Special Investigation Unit. Chief Crown?
Good evening, Mayor Coots and council members. Item before you is a Special Investigative Unit interlocal agreement. There are no changes from previous versions. This matter will be unfortunately coming before you at a later date. This is basically to get signatures that are current. As you know, Douglas County changed their sheriff, so did Okanagan County, and probably soon East Wenatchee will have the same thing happen, and also Washington State Patrol as a new captain in the region here as well. So this is an interlocal agreement for a Special Investigative Unit. That unit investigates officer use of force and specifically officer-involved shootings in these jurisdictions. As I mentioned before, there is no financial impact other than each individual agency will bear the cost of their participation in the investigations where there is a need for special equipment. Each individual agency that is the host agency will actually provide those. So no changes in that regard. You actually have a copy of the protocols that are associated with the Special Investigative Unit. Those will be changing in 2020, probably in the second quarter, because the protocols are in rulemakings at the state level regarding I-940, which is the use of deadly force by law enforcement. So those changes will be coming at a later date. We're in the process right now of being one of the agencies that are providing comment through the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, as well as us as an individual agency. And we'll be actually providing statements and testimony regarding our input on how those should work. As they are right now, we've been given our first copy and we're reviewing it. There are some very problematic issues with it regarding Eastern Washington, large expanses of land where you have to travel large distances to assist other agencies, and some of the other factors such as independent review of the investigation. So we're going to be providing comment. Again, you'll probably see this agreement and the protocols associated with it at a future date. I'm glad to answer any questions if you have any.
So this has been working fine. Obviously, there's been some issues here where we've helped with investigations and other portions. It seems to be working out well for all parties.
Yeah, I mean, we're way ahead of the curve, even when you're with the new rulemaking. About 90% of what's in the rulemaking recommendations we're already doing as far as independent investigations of those uses of force. It's worked very well with our partner agencies. The latest investigation that we did was up in Okanagan County for their officers involved shooting up there. We sent 3 of our detectives up there to assist with one of the crime scenes, and it was very seamless, even though we had a new partner, and that's Sheriff Hawley. And so we worked through all the newness, and we're able to provide them a really good service along with Douglas County and Washington State Patrol and Chelan County.
Just a check, I guess. This agreement is continuing, as I understand it. But on page 16 of our packet, in the interlocal agreement document itself, number 5 there, it says this term of this agreement shall be through December 31, 2019. So this document, we're still under the old one in a sense, and we're good till the end of December, then it automatically renews. Is that
right?
What we're doing?
It
Okay.
was purposely done that way so that we know that when the agreement runs out and we're going to have all these amendments or edits to the existing language, we'll take care of them in that sense. But we really did need to have the signatories from each agency head on the agreement and make sure that they are delivered copies of what protocols are currently in place.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for the chief? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for City Council to provide authorization for the mayor to sign the Special Investigative Unit interlocal agreement.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Markart, to provide council authorization for the mayor to sign the Special Investigation Unit interlocal agreement. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Biennial Stormwater Capacity Grant. Jessica, how are you this afternoon?
Very well, thank you. Good evening, council, mayor. So tonight, good news, we're getting another grant from the Department of Ecology to help out with our stormwater permit implementation and compliance activities. So about every 2 years, we kind of wait to see if this grant's going to come around again. It's not competitive or anything. It's just we're a city and we have a municipal stormwater permit. And this year, because of our median household income being less than 80% of the state median household income, we're actually getting $95,000. In the past, we've gotten the $50,000, which is the standard that all communities are allowed to apply for. So we should be easily able to spend this money in the time period that we have. Our costs are usually around $600,000 a year for permit implementation. So a lot of times I'll bill activities like staff time and equipment charges to go out and clean catch basins, investigate illicit discharges, do public education and outreach activities. So not hard to come up with $50,000 to $95,000 worth of bills. So we get reimbursed for it and no match required. So
Ooh, that's even better.
yeah, pretty easy. Any questions?
So what's it going to pay for exactly?
So it can pay for staff time. It can pay for supplies, It can pay for equipment, so it could pay for the guys to go out and clean catch basins if they need some supplies. Sometimes we bought things to restock our spill kits, so all of our vehicles have socks and kitty litter, all kinds of stuff for cleaning up spills. We go through those supplies, and so sometimes we'll use this grant to restock those spill kits. We've also, probably one of the ones I like to use it for the most is training, so for our crews and staff on stormwater, which is also a requirement of our permit. And again, just staff time, so any time spent doing any of the activities under the permit, any of that can get reimbursed through this grant. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, any questions for Jessica? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for the city council to authorize the mayor's signature on the 2019-2021 biennial stormwater capacity grant agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Markar, second by Councilmember Kulas. To authorize the mayor's signature on the 2019 through 2021 biennial stormwater capacity grant agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology. Any discussion? Questions for Jessica? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jessica. Mr. Hoover, we have finished our equalization basin liner replacement project.
Yes, good morning, or good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Yes, we did finish the equalization basin liner project. We've got a new ramp down into the equalization basin, and we have a new liner, 60 mil liner, and everything worked fairly well. We did end up having one change order on the project to replace some of the old fencing that was around the perimeter there on the northern side and the western side of the basin. Other than that, everything seemed to go relatively quickly and painlessly. So I'm here to ask the council to authorize the mayor to sign the final contract voucher and accept the project.
What's the length of life for the new liner?
The existing one that was there was about half or 3/4 of thickness, and it lasted about 15 years. So I'm expecting this to be somewhere in the 20-year lifetime.
Why was the concrete path put down though?
So that we can get a gator type of a piece of equipment down there, so that any kind of debris that ends up in the basin can be brought out without having to slip and slide up and down that liner. Having walked up and down it, it's precarious, and it's even worse when it's wet.
Sort of like a slip and slide, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody wants a water slide in Wenatchee, we'll send them down to the basin.
It'll work.
All right, any questions for Jeremy? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Well, Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to accept the work performed by the contractor KRCI LLC, Inc. for the wastewater treatment plant equalization basin liner replacement, project number 1620, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract vouchers certification on behalf of the City of Wenatchee.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Esparza, to accept the work performed by contractor KRCI LLC for the wastewater treatment plant equalization basin liner replacement project number 1620, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract voucher on behalf of the City of Wenatchee. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Jeremy. Mr. Erickson, some magic. Some grants and trading monies and whatever we do.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dave Erickson, Parks and Recreation Director for the city. So tonight I'm seeking approval for 3 different items. So it would be 3 separate motions for the Kenzie's Landing project. This one you guys have heard about a few times, I think, over the last couple of years. So I thought I would go through each of the 3 different elements of this, and then I know Land Trust has a statement they'd like me to read, and then answer your questions you might have. So the first item is a project agreement with Chelan Douglas Land Trust, and this one is similar to basically all the other foothills agreements that we've had for the various projects over the last several years. The one difference in this one is that the Land Trust will be donating an 8.63 acre parcel to the city. And so in your agenda report, it's the little triangle-shaped piece that's identified in white. And by donating that to the city, then we'll have one contiguous land ownership and management for that section of the foothills. Second item is to request approval of a grant agreement with the state for the acquisition development project. So we applied for this grant last year in 2018, and it was the top-ranked acquisition development project in the state, and it's for $1 million, and that's for the project. The match of the grant is largely coming from the value of a property donation. So the property that we would be acquiring through this project was valued at $1.76 million, and so then we'll be able to use that value of that property as the grant match. And then the third item then would be to authorize the mayor to sign the purchase sale agreement for that piece of property with the land trust, and that's a 51.76 acre parcel outlined in red in your agenda report. One of the cool things about this is that through this process and the grant, the state would pay the money to the escrow account. The escrow account would pay to the land trust, so we don't have to get in the middle of that payment portion of the process. This last year, we did the review appraisal, phase 1 environmental evaluation, cultural resources assessment on the property. And then with your approval of the 3 items, the acquisition would occur by the end of this year, with construction engineering happening next year, and then the actual construction of the trailhead itself in 2021. The agreements, they've been reviewed by the city attorney and also discussed at Finance and Arts Rec and Park Commission meetings. And then Kurt Soper, the executive director for the Land Trust, he couldn't be here this evening, but he asked that the following be read into the record. He says, the Chelan Douglas Land Trust supports the city of Wenatchee's effort to establish the Kenzie Landing Trailhead, and our board has formally approved the conveyance of land trust property to the city as part of the project. We are honored to be partners with the city at Kenzie's Landing and so many other places in the Wenatchee foothills. Our community is developing a world-class outdoor recreation resource close to home for its citizens, and this helps make Wenatchee a great place to live and raise a family. Thank you, Mayor Kuntz and council members, for all your support. With that, I'd answer any questions you might have on the projects.
This works the same way all the rest of them have been, in that land trust has bought the property. We're going to get a grant from the state. It goes to the land trust. We end up with the property. They get the money to go use it on other projects, and then eventually we get a trailhead built.
Sort of, yeah. So in this particular case, we're doing it a little bit similar to Hale. Okay. So we got the property donated to us as the match. The grant money is coming from the state for the property.
Got it.
We give the property purchase money to the land trust, and then we use that money to build the trailhead.
Okay.
So it's kind of this.
So the $1 million that's coming from the state that's coming to us is going to the land trust, ends up building the trailhead, not reimbursing for the land.
Right,
Got it.
right.
Okay.
And then if there's any left over, we would use that then with the land trust to go out and use that for a grant match to acquire or develop other properties.
Got it. Okay. I'm glad you're keeping track of the shells. All right, any questions for Dave?
Yeah, Dave, just went on the map portion there where the new property that we're getting, we have the foothills, north natural area, and then the city of Wenatchee Sage Hills Gateway area, and then of course lying between that is the PUD's home water property. Mm-hmm. And of course major trail runs through that. Is everything working okay in terms of agreement with the PUD in terms of use of the trail? There was back a ways, I can't put my finger on it right off the top of my head, but there was a point in time where there was some controversy over who gets to do what, where, and when, and all those sorts of things, and that kind of lies in a really, really critical piece of real estate, and that if they decide to do something different or whatever, do we have enough agreements in there that works between everybody?
Yeah, actually, we've got a really good relationship with both the Land Trust and the PUD, and meet regularly, especially between the Land Trust and PUD, to talk about the unauthorized trails, because there are certain trail corridors that are authorized. And I want to say the last year or two, we've put in a request to formalize some of the unauthorized trails that actually should be there, that are desired, and then take away some of the other trails that aren't either authorized or desired. And so we're continually working with them on that piece of property, on their home water property.
On water property, okay.
Mhm. And we've had discussions with this piece of property also and how it links and connects through, so.
Right.
There's still some time in the wintertime where you're not allowed to hike on the home water preserve because of mule deer?
Yeah, everything from pretty much Fifth Street north, and our policies, we're all tied together. So our Foothills North property, our Sage Hills Gateway, and Horse Lake with the land trust are all the policies are together. So those are closed to outdoor recreation from December 1st through April 1st each year.
All right. Any other questions for David? If not, we've got three separate motions. I guess we should deal with them each separately. Probably keep our city clerk happy.
I'll start with the first one. I will make a motion for City Council to approve the project agreement with Chelan Douglas Land Trust for the Kinsey's Landing Project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Esparza, second by Councilmember Harold to approve the project agreement with Chelan Douglas Land Trust for the Kinsey's Landing Project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one.
Your Honor, I make a motion for City Council to approve the project funding agreement 18-1247C with the State of Washington for the Kinsey's Landing Project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Markart to approve the project funding agreement 18-1247C with the State of Washington for the Kinsey's Landing Project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Same song, third verse.
Your Honor, I make a motion for City Council to approve the purchase and sale agreement with the Chelan Douglas Land Trust for the Kinsey's Landing Project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Huffaker to approve the purchase and sale agreement with the Chelan Douglas Land Trust for the Kinsey's Landing Project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate your good work.
Can't wait till it gets done.
Yeah, that would be nice. Mr. King, interlocal agreement with Link.
Your Honor, on this particular item, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. So noted.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Steve King, Economic Development Director. This agenda item has to do with interlocal agreement with Link for support of the environmental work that's being done for Confluence Parkway. Link has been a great partner in helping us with the infra grants and working through North Wenatchee and making sure that transit is accounted for in those projects. And in fact, Confluence Parkway and the North Wenatchee work actually has great benefit to Link in terms of congestion costs when, Lyle can attest to this, when there's more congestion, you need more buses, more operators. So the congestion cost of North Wenatchee Avenue is very sizable in 20 years as congestion builds. So we, this year you approved a contract with KPG and Anchor Environmental to do the environmental NEPA work, and we had in that budget a placeholder of $200,000, which we had asked for Link to participate, and that was anticipating their action, I guess it was last week, in which they approved that $200,000. About $100,000 is going to go to the environmental process, another $100,000 goes to the pre-design of the Maple Miller Wenatchee Avenue Denny's area intersection, which is extremely critical to Link service as they have bus stops there in that Valley North shopping area. So the mayor was there. We presented to the Link board, and there were some questions about benefit, and I think Richard Durock and everybody understood that there's great benefit, so Link approved it through the interlocal.
I think it also helped that they got some additional sales tax money and felt a little flusher in the checkbook perhaps than they had a month or so earlier. So I think that helped. Any questions for Steve? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I will make a motion for City Council to authorize the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement with Link Transit for $200,000 to be used to support the Confluence Parkway NEPA compliance project.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Esparza, second by Councilmember Markart, to authorize the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement with Link Transit for $200,000 to be used to support the Confluence Parkway NEPA compliance project. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
It's
you.
always nice to be the benefit of money instead of paying out money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Shale, sounds like we're going to finally demolish Northwest Wholesale Building and the building behind Smitty's.
Exciting, right? We still have some updated information for you all.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Not a lot has changed.
Thank you.
Our low bidder is non-responsive.
That's the one that, so good evening, council and mayor. Matt Shales, Development Project Manager in the Economic Development Department. So in front of you, you have some bid results for the North Wenatchee Ave building demolition project, which is part of the North Wenatchee redevelopment project. We are proposing to remove a concrete warehouse and some other site improvements to make way for development by private landholders, and then also to make way for the construction of Columbia Avenue. And then another part of the demolition project is also the old Northwest Wholesale office, which will make way for the Kittrick Signal project. So as such, the bid had to be separated in two pieces, one that will be funded by federal money, and the other by the 304 fund. And so with the federal money became a federal form where you'll see that the low bidder did not include, which is the second page. And so it clearly states at the top in red that if you do not have this form as part of your proposal, we cannot accept your bid. We had WashDOT and the city attorney take a look at that and concurred on that. So unfortunately, we cannot accept that low bid. Fortunately, the second bidder is within our budget that we have for the project, since the federal grant's taking about 95,000 of that for the office, and our 1712 project budget had 200,000 in it, and that'll come to about 175,000 towards that fund. So we could have got it lower, unfortunately, the non-responsiveness. So anyway, these were a public bid process, and we opened on October 18th. And I didn't print off one of those for myself, but the second bid is Ascendant LLC out of Pacific, Washington at $269,065 and some cents, I think, on there.
Mhm.
So we'll go ahead and review that and make sure that all looks good. And so the action would be to authorize the mayor to sign a construction contract with Ascendant after we've been able to verify their bid proposal is complete and they have furnished all the correct contracting documents.
So Matt, I think we talked about this a little bit at finance. So the reasons that these bidders seem to be from the western side of the mountains and have quite a bit lower than our local contractors would be why?
So there is a considerable amount of really nice timber inside of the Northwest Wholesale warehouse. Lots of really nice rough cut beams, 4x16 timbers that I don't know how many feet are in there. It's a lot. And so sounds like the west side contractors are more in tune with that salvage timber market. And so they've got people ready and lined up and that want that material. And our contractors around here don't necessarily have that market dialed in. So.
It's too bad.
Yeah. But we received 8 bids, so there's a really great response.
And just timing, because I drive by that regularly and look at that block building behind Smitty's and keep wondering when it's going to come down. Assuming the council approves this, when would we expect contractors on site?
going through all the proper channels. We give them 10 days to give us the information. We have to review that. It's my hope that within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're able to issue a notice to proceed.
Nice.
Good.
So we're going to see this again if they don't pass a review process?
So I've done an initial review and everything looks complete, but yes, we have to have a final review.
Because there's federal dollars in this.
So there is a chance.
WashDOT is the final approver of everything, and so quite often, as we have found out, these things sit on someone's desk at WashDOT for a longer period of time than sometimes they need to. But we will certainly push this along, so our review is fine. WashDOT still has to review and bless it somehow, and
Yeah.
so,
And you'll see the third bid comes in very close to the second bid. So if we had to, for some reason, yeah.
so I would entertain a motion if we had one.
Well, Your Honor, I make a motion for the city council to authorize the mayor to award and sign the construction contract to the lowest responsive bidder upon review of the WashDOT and city attorney.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Harold, to authorize the mayor to award and sign a construction contract for the lowest responsible bidder, that being Accedent LLC, in the amount of $269,065.06 upon review by the Washington State Department of Transportation and the city attorney. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Matt. Since the housing code update, that public hearing's been continued, and we're just off to the mayor's report. I'm not exactly sure where to start. We did have a breakfast meeting this week on Wednesday, whatever conference was in town,
IACC?
IACC, that's what I said. They were in town this week, and so we had some folks from Commerce that were in. So we had breakfast with them and Senator Parlett Wednesday morning to talk about Parkside and the need for additional capital dollars. So they gave us some ideas on how we might make that work. So we are hopeful that when the governor presents his supplemental budget, maybe sometime next month, that there might be money in his supplemental budget for Parkside. So we went through, there's some grants we can go through. Everyone agreed that we didn't qualify for the grants. But even if we got a grant, it ties our hands so much that we don't want one of those grants. So it sounds like the only way to really get anything is to get something directly allocated through the governor's budget. So we are attempting to do that. There was quite a little housing forum on Wednesday as well. So we had Senator Cooter, who is the housing chair on the Senate, and we had the Republican housing chair, and we had 6 or 7 or 8 members of the House and Senate in Wenatchee, and I sat on a panel, and we had the Mr. Young from the University of Washington's real estate division there, and so quite a little afternoon with showing them around different projects. They were very impressed with our proposed Widener project, the partnership. So I think that was a fairly good afternoon. I think it showed the city well, but there was a lot going on. And then I did not make it to the after IACC event yesterday at Pybus, but anyhow, quite a few folks in town on Wednesday. How am I going to say this? I will, you guys could read between the lines. There's a certain real estate deal that we are considering, and it sounds like it is sort of going sideways. And so our partner is probably going to go ahead and close on portions that they were considering buying, and we are not going to close on the portions that we were going to consider buying. Although I think there'll be some conversations going forward, but we did a counter offer that was more in line with what we had talked about, and that was not accepted. So at that point, we're sort of taking a back seat and going to wait and see what happens. I think it does sort of, you know, when we talked about LRF dollars and we talked about perhaps building a parking garage between what I call, I guess it's Works Gym now in Biosports, for $3 million plus, and that was sort of the plan. And we sort of did a little bit of preliminary engineering, then we stopped when this deal came up. And you know, in the meantime, we have put in 20 or so parking stalls just across the street from the Hilton, right underneath the walking bridge. Beautiful compact gravel lot. And then I think the utility folks have ripped out the old, whatever was there, Clarify, so whatever was there. And there's going to be another 7 or 8 parking stalls there. So clearly over 30 stalls. Every time I go by there, no one's in any of them. And so I'm really looking for direction from you guys. You know, if this other deal falls apart, do you really want to build a parking garage, or should we look for other development opportunities along the waterfront? I don't need an answer today. Just want you to think about it. I am less inclined to get excited about building one now that the Hilton's there and I'm seeing how the activity is sort of working in that area. But you all have your own opinions of it. So I just thought I would let you know that at least my thought is maybe we ought to think about something different. But and that was my sort of observation today. Allison?
I think it's the convenience of that lot that it's not getting used right now. It's just.
Yeah, but you know, we've worked so hard to get the Pybus folks to have their employees park there on Saturday morning, and they won't do it. You know, we did have some Hilton people park there on their grand opening. Some of the employees have parked there, so we do see a few cars there.
It's not convenient.
Yeah, it's a full
If necessity,
three quarters of a block.
necessity arises,
Yeah, I know.
it'll get used.
It would be used if we did parking enforcement on Worthing Street during,
Yeah.
on Saturdays.
Yeah. And we could probably do that. I mean, we could have our parking guy go out on Saturdays and trade a Saturday for a Monday morning or something, and
As the chief says, it's behavioral modification.
yeah. Allison, anything else for?
The developer meeting yesterday.
Yeah, so we met with the folks west of Foothills sort of regarding impact fees and then sort of road connections. So an interesting group of developers and property owners were in town. I did not stay for all of it. The consultant was in and talked about a range of impact fees. The highest level, just for you guys to know, is just under $25,000, which is a number that's justifiable. I mentioned to the audience that I thought the council would be more inclined to be somewhere between the $5,000 and $10,000 range. I think our Broadview one is currently about $5,000. If you did inflation, it would be somewhere around $6,500. So I think they understood the concept. There was some other discussion just about connection roads in there and the Philippi property and when are we going to get it connected over to Castle Rock and some of the other stuff with the neighbors. But I think overall it went fairly well. So I think it was nice to get that out. That was yesterday as well. Other than that, we did meet with our folks from Alcoa. We're in last Thursday. Give us an update on what's going on with the plant. It's still in whatever they call it. I think I'll get the terms wrong, so don't quote me. They've mothballed 2 of the units and 3 are still available to be up and operating at some point. They're still, of course, awaiting the market to change. I sort of laughed when they said that. But, they are sort of looking for other opportunities for the property, so they encouraged us if we heard of people that wanted to use the land or something. And so I don't, if we hear something at this point, we'll probably turn it over to the port for them to go out and do that sort of work. So, but they came in and sent some folks from back in Pittsburgh and then some folks from their plant over on the coast, Ferndale, wherever it is. We had a phone call with the governor's office again on a bunch of different legislative stuff. I would say, I think the issues with the Department of Ecology and lead arsenic, I think, Glenn, we're sort of moving in the right direction, wouldn't you say? Yeah, things have sort of really changed in the last couple of weeks. Some of us were at AWC Cities on Tap on Monday. And that was a very nice, wish there would have been more folks there, but nice to get caught up with what's going on with AWC. Allison?
I think the other one was a meeting with the school district cabinet where
right.
they were looking at all of the developments occurring across the city so they could get an understanding of where growth was occurring. And they want to have more regular meetings on that level. So for their planning purposes and for planning out their facilities and their next levies.
Yeah, and I think really difficult for them is Councilmember Bailey mentioned to me, back in the old days, if you'd say there's going to be, 100 homes there, that means there's 200 kids, right? You just sort of take 100 times 2, and now with, we could put in 300 apartment units, right? And you might get 10 kids, I don't know. So they're really struggling with how to sort of, we show them all this multifamily that's coming, and it's coming, and there's a lot of it, and they're just going, we don't know what this means for schools and how we're supposed to plan. And if you think of Triad, are those kids that are living there all going to Newberry or Foothills? And so they're really sort of trying to figure that out. So we'll have more regular meetings with them, and I'll get them some maps and stuff that they can sort of consider and look at as they try to plan for what they're trying to do. We are not meeting next week, and we will meet again in a special meeting on the 7th. So the 7th, the 14th for sure. I think the 21st, we may have a meeting, but I don't know for sure if we're going to do that.
We do need.
And then we'll be on the 5th of December, and please plan on the 5th being a longer meeting. We will have the budget for you on November 14th, obviously quite a bit sooner for you guys to review. You saw the sales tax numbers today, got emailed to you. So August was another strong month. So nice to see that sort of ongoing. Allison, anything else to add?
I think we hit high points. Easy.
Okay. Council members, anything for the good of the order from stuff you're working on?
Just a question. We have a gentleman here from the American Legion. Yeah, was he here to give us a presentation, or are you just here to visit?
No, I understanding the supposed to begin proclamation for our Veterans Day parade.
So I don't know if we're doing that. When is the Veterans Day parade? Would be on the
November
11th. So we'll probably do that on the 7th.
Yep.
We'll probably do it on the 7th. So I don't know how we got communications mixed up. My apologies. Okay.
It was
That's
nice
right.
to see you.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, thanks
so
for being here.
Yeah. We'll do it on the 7th, I think.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to our lawyer, Steve, and Danielle. They did a great job Wednesday night at the land thing.
Oh, okay. What'd you do?
We talked at the IACC conference
Okay.
on planning.
Oh, good. Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
That's really nice to showcase our city. When IACC's here, they see this stuff. I heard great things about the Hilton. Of course, I love Pybus. I love what we did to our wastewater treatment plant. It really is. It's nice to showcase. And we use almost every funding source they have, so.
Their numbers were up really high this year, too.
Yeah.
Substantially.
About 450.
Yeah.
About 450, I heard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anything else? Keith, Mark, Linda?
So moderate waste facility grand opening got delayed. A
Okay.
little building issue, should have update on the 7th.
Okay.
We had a Massawa Sister City meeting yesterday evening, and we're beginning to recruit for the trip next August, and we will have delegates coming for Wings and Wheels next year.
Okay. And next Tuesday, at some point, is the groundbreaking for Wells Hall.
5 o'clock.
And I cannot be there. I'm going to be out of town. So whatever council members are going, if you'd let Tammy know, she'll let Jim Richardson know.
Yeah, I RSVP'd to his
Okay.
assistant.
Thank you.
It's in my district
Yeah.
after all.
Yeah.
It's in mine too.
And remember too, that immediately before that, starting at 4:30 is the Elliott Avenue walkway open
Right.
house
Okay.
at Automoka. That's the walkway between 2nd and 3rd Streets.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can hit 2.
Right. Yeah.
Just-
I'll
only
be
has to park your
I'll be
car
interested to
once.
know how that goes.
I will be too.
Yeah, that was an area that when we moved
And that one's gonna be held
when we
on
moved the
site.
barriers, one block really had an issue.
Automoka on 5th, so not on site.
Yeah.
Automoka, is that the one there?
A little
across
shack.
From the college?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. At 4:30?
4:30. 4:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
And the grand opening is at 5?
5.
Yeah.
The groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking? Yeah, the grand opening, it's a little premature. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
Opening of the ground.
Yeah. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.